Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Angeli and his colleagues for organizing this 15th Interethnic Interfaith Conference and the continuing effort to bring together people who have been suffering from China's totalitarian regime and the colonial occupation to discuss the issues and challenges we are facing today. From Southern Mongolian perspective, the most pressing issue we are facing today is a cultural genocide carried out by the Chinese authorities under the direct instruction from Beijing. The official euphemism of this new round of cultural genocide is second generation bilingual education, which in practice is aiming to completely eradicate Mongolian language from the entire educational system in Southern Mongolia. In early June this year, a high-ranking official from the Chinese Ministry of Education visited Southern Mongolia and verbally relayed the central government's order to the local educational bureau and school authorities in Tonya City. What concerned the entire Southern Mongolian population was the way the policy was implemented, the total secrecy of the plan, and the surreptitious way it was carried out. Even until today, there has been no single official document from the central government on this so-called major national strategic deployment. Responding to this renewed attack on a Mongolian culture that was already weakened by the Chinese Communist regime's 7 decades of forceful assimilation policies, the entire Southern Mongolian population has risen up to say no to the regime's advance. As a result, in late August, a region-wide civil disobedience resistance movement broke out across Southern Mongolia, from kindergartners to top intellectuals, from middle schoolers to college students, from ordinary herders to rural villagers, from musicians and artists to taxi drivers, from government officials to party members, and even some police. People from all walks of life in Southern Mongolia have rejected the new round of cultural genocide. Almost all Mongolian schools and classrooms were empty as the new semester started on September 1st, despite the government's push for early registration, police intimidation, and official propaganda. Mongolian parents organized themselves to launch a total boycott. Many proposed homeschooling, others proposed a synchronized region-wide demonstration in major cities across Southern Mongolia. At least 300,000 students joined the school boycott, according to some studies. The protest is the largest mass movement in mainland China since the 1989 student movement. The level of coordination and solidarity is unprecedented. Not only the entire Southern Mongolian population took part in the protest one way or another, but also the Mongolians around the world, including the independent country of Mongolia, Kalmyk, Buryat, Hazara, and the overseas Mongolian communities have been staging protests in front of Chinese embassies and consulates in their respective countries to show their solidarity to the Southern Mongolian underground. The Chinese authorities' response to this massive civil disobedience resistance movement is a typical one: brutal and inhuman crackdown. Mass arrests and arbitrary detentions are always the first step of the crackdown. We estimate at least 8,000 to 10,000 Southern Mongolians have either been arrested, detained, or placed under house arrest since late August. In addition to these, other methods of intimidation, including firing people from jobs, removing officials from positions, expelling and blacklisting students, suspending hoarders' social benefit, denying access to bank loan, and then even confiscation of properties for their refusal to cooperate with the authorities. Under these inhuman intimidation and pressure, at least 11 people lost their lives. This is a quick summary of what has happened in Southern Mongolia in the past 2 months. Major news media around the world have been extensively covering this movement, and most of them called it as a rare protest. In fact, the protests are never rare in Southern Mongolia. Only 9 years ago, there was another major protest sparked by the brutal killing of a Mongolian herder by a Chinese coal mining truck. During these 9 years alone, hundreds of smaller scale sporadic protests have taken place across Southern Mongolia, especially in the rural areas, in protest of China's mining, land grab, and environmental destruction. Regarding this new round of cultural genocide, it is not a surprise to us. Genocide has always been an integral part of China's ethnic policy towards Southern Mongolia in the past 71 years. To us, this is the second major genocide. In the 1960s and 1970s, the Chinese government committed a physical genocide to kill at least 100,000 Mongolians and persecuted 500,000. Of course, all Mongolian schools were banned, and the no Mongolian language education had existed for a decade.